Hello, welcome back to Be It Till You See It. I'm so happy you're here. I really am. This interview with Uma Naralkar. She is a breath of fresh air and also has an incredible story that she shared. And actually, in this interview, I asked her questions she'd never been asked before. And she'd never told that story before. And so I'm really honored that you'll get to hear it in this interview. I want you to look in the show notes so you can get all of the links to everything that she has going on. She runs challenges. She has an incredible nutrition website. And you're going to want to follow her on Instagram for best tips on just really be taking charge of your health. But why I really wanted you to hear from Uma is when I met her, I didn't know her before I met her. Obviously, that's how it works. So brilliant. But when we met in this really interesting way, we were both sitting next to each other in the front row of this group, and she had no problems just like talking to me as if we had known each other and like asking me questions as if we'd known each other. And I just really loved that about her. I loved that she wasn't holding back or like, oh, I don't know this girl, so I can't ask this girl anything. Like she literally, if she had a question, she asked it. And as someone who I tend to be someone who like sits back, you would never know it, I know, but like I don't often ask questions from people. I've been trying to change that about myself, hence this podcast. But like it would be in these groups and I'm like learning from these amazing people and I just wouldn't ask the question. And having her sitting next to me, constantly asking questions really made it seem like it was totally possible and kind of got my gumption up to ask questions. And so I'm really grateful for her and I'm grateful that we got to connect. So I can't wait for you to dive into this interview, and please check out how you can get to know more about her and work with her in the show notes below, because I promise even if you just follow her on Instagram, you're going to learn so much more about how you can take care of your health. And so until further ado, after this brief message, the fabulous interview with Uma. Welcome to the Be It Till You See It podcast, where we talk about taking messy action knowing that perfect is boring. I'm Lesley Logan, Pilates instructor and fitness business coach. I've trained thousands of people around the world, and the number one thing I see stopping people from achieving anything is self-doubt. My friends, action brings clarity, and it's the antidote to fear. Each week, my guests will bring bold, executable, intrinsic, and targeted steps that you can use to put yourself first and be it till you see it. It's a practice, not a perfect. Let's get started. All right. Well, I am so pleased to finally bring to you Uma Naralkar. She is someone who, hopefully I said her last name really well, but also who I got to meet because we were in a mastermind together. She was the first person I sat down next to, and we kept getting put into groups. So no matter how many different ways they counted off groups, we always were in the same group together. And I found her passion and her energy and enthusiasm were like contagious. And also, I just feel like no bounds. Like there was no scarcity mindset in talking to you, and it really helped me out. And I wanted to bring you on to all of the people listening. Just so inspiring. And so Uma, will you please tell everyone a little about yourself?
Oh my gosh. First, I just want to say thank you for that intro. That was beautiful. And before I got on, I was just thinking about that day. It was, we were in the very front row of that mastermind. Do you remember that? And we were sitting right next to each other. That's how we got introduced. And you're absolutely right. We just kind of kept getting in the same groups. And it was a beautiful way to connect. And I also want to say that I really appreciate you, everything you're doing, your work and how passionate you are with everything that you do. I get inspired every day, even if you're just doing a workout. If I'm watching a workout video, I'm like, okay, that's so motivating. And I appreciate it. I think you're like 100% in everything that you do. And I just want to say that I admire that about you. And I appreciate that. So about me,
that's amazing. I mean, if I just brought you on for the compliment,
I could write an intro for you next time. I don't know where to start. What do you want to know about me? Ask me.
Well, so we met because you run your own business, and that's really cool. Mm-hmm. But I guess like what started you to create your own business? Like, where were you that made you go, you know what, I'm going to do this thing that's my own? And also a bit, I know you do a lot with health and fitness, so I want to make sure we get into nutrition and that kind of thing, because you are the expert in that.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so I do a couple of different things. So I am a nutritionist and I work with functional MDs in LA. And now we're doing all over the country and a few different parts of the world where I do a lot of maintenance work, right? So if someone has a hormonal disorder like PCOD, PCOS, or just other functional disorders like maybe type 2 diabetes, I work with patients to help maintain their lifestyle so that they can get off medication or reverse their conditions. So that's one thing that I do. I also work with, so I do a lot of group challenges just to motivate people to move and to, start with the health and fitness journey. And I work and partner with multiple brands on social media. So those are my three different businesses. And my most important job is that I'm a mom. I have two amazing kids, and they're still, they're 8 and 11. So that's a big part of my what I do. And the way it all started was, so I'm going to give you the shorter version of the story. I had a corporate job in Hollywood, and it was really high stress and a lot of work, weekends, late nights, a lot of client servicing. And it kind of took a toll on my health. And because I was much younger and very ambitious, I kind of let it slide, right? And before I knew it, my health was completely compromised. I was overweight, but more than that, I had like functional issues. I had high blood pressure, and it's so interesting. I feel like we all know when something's off, right? Our body's so clever. It's constantly telling us, you have a headache, your clothes are not fitting you the way they used to, you're not sleeping well, right? And we kind of ignore all that till something happens. And that's exactly what happened to me. We were in our late 20s and trying to start a family. And I couldn't get pregnant. I couldn't conceive.
Mm.
And after, I think, a year of trying, we went to see a fertility specialist. And she asked me, she said, "Are you aware that you have put on over 25 pounds in just this last 12 months?" And I was like, "Wait, no,
Wow.
last 12 months? Are you sure? Like, hasn't it been longer?" And she said, "No, like, I'm just looking at your chart." And she said, "Your hormones are off, your blood." It was just, I was completely at a rock bottom as far as my health was
Yeah.
concerned. And I think at that point, I was just like, I can never forget, that moment where you're like, this has nothing, I mean, forget having babies. If I want to live and if I want to live long enough, I really need to change something. So I
Yeah.
started making, I started doing all the research and making changes in the way I was eating and moving. And surely enough, I saw changes in how I was feeling, and the weight went up. I got pregnant naturally, and my entire life changed. I was just so much happier. It was like the fog lifted. And I think everyone around me saw that. I feel like that's how it all started, because people started asking me what I'm doing. Why am I, looking better? Why have I lost the weight? How did I get pregnant without IVF? And I just started sharing with like my neighbor, my cousins, and people who I know. And it just went from there. And then it was referrals, and people started asking me. I think there was a point when I was like, maybe I should charge for this. And I think I would charge like it literally was like, I think I started charging like $100 for like the whole thing, like my entire consultation. And I'm like, yeah, sure, call me whenever you want. We'll do as many follow-ups as you want. There was no real business concept, right, to it. And so that went on for quite some time. I did a lot of free work. I showed up everywhere, and I just loved doing it. And then there came a point when I was like, this is great, but I'm doing it for 10 hours a day with two babies, so I think I should get paid for it. So then it became a one-on-one coaching thing, and then slowly evolved into an online business, and then came all the scaling up. But the moral of the story is that I think that all of us know that, we need to change. I feel like that sense is there when you see your health depleting. And I see it again and again in all my clients, and I'm sure you see it too. It's like
Yeah.
people will come to you when they don't have a choice. Right. And they're like at a point where they've been diagnosed with something, or they're so severely compromised that they have to change. And I
Yeah.
wish that changes and we start from the beginning. It becomes a part of who we are, and we don't have to get to that point.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's, it's definitely like, I don't have kids, but I'm sure that the way you raise your kids is to put their health and wellness first. And like, because if you learn that at a younger age, right? No offense to my parents, they did the best they could, but like, I didn't learn about boundaries. I was like, oh, I'm getting offered another promotion. So you say yes. And it's like,
Mhm.
the extra, like you're rewarded for the extra credit, the extra work to get the A+, like you know what I mean? So I was just trained to do more and more as if more was better. And it's probably why I love Pilates so much, because it's all about quality, not quantity. But I definitely had a similar thing in my career where I should have been the happiest I could be. I was super young and like so known. And my health was ruined. Stress had really taken over everything. And I had to get so clear on like what was causing everything, and like unpeel the layers that I'd put on of stress to figure out like what was the cause, because it takes such a toll on our bodies. And I'm sure that you
Absolutely.
find like, if you go back to before you were this, when you eat differently and when you're working out and you're putting your health first, I feel like I have way more confidence on days that I fueled myself better than on days that I didn't. Right.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. And, I also feel talking about the society, right? Or how you're brought up and what you were saying about, up my parents too. And in fact, I was born in India, so a country where education and success and doing more and resting less is definitely like a badge of honor. And I definitely took that with me when I started working. And I worked as a producer in Hollywood. So it was excruciatingly stressful. And I think, we take pride in the longer hours, in the lack of sleep, and the working on weekends. And when you are in your early 20s, it's really not as those hormetic stressors. They're there, but you're so much more resilient to them, right? As you start entering your perimenopausal years, which is anything from 35 to 55, that stress amplifies. And then you'll see people having all these like HPA axis issues and sleep problems. Like I cannot sleep no matter what I do, right? And it adds up. It's like, what you did for the last 20 years, you can't just rewind it in 2 months,
Right. Right. You're
right?
like, okay, well, I'm Uma, I'm sleeping 8 hours a day and like, it's not getting better. It's like, well, how many days have you done that? And compared to how many years you didn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Lesley. I did Pilates yesterday. I don't see my abs. Like, no, like
It's like, I know. Well, usually I say, well, I'm not in the kitchen with you.
yeah,
I,
that's a
um,
good one.
I, so, okay, cause you're from India. When did you come to the US? And, I just wonder, like, cause I was born and raised a California girl. So that is an interesting life all on its own. When I went to the East Coast, I'm like, why are all these states so small? Why are people
Oh
working
my
in one
God, I
state, but
love
they live
it.
in another? So I find like people's childhoods and life is very interesting. So how old were you when you moved here? And then, um, like what do you remember? Like, when do you remember kind of like putting yourself out there a little bit more and kind of, what was that like for you?
Oh, that's such a good question because I don't think anyone's ever asked me that. So I moved here when I was 20. And it's interesting because I moved from one country to another country where I have no family, no friends. And I moved to San Francisco actually. And I lived there for 7 years. I went to film school there and then I was there for a little bit longer. And it was all different, but I think the biggest difference for me was the food, right? So in India, we have a lot of help. Inherently, there's help and cooks, and food is never something that I had to even think about. So that's the reason why it was always so well balanced and healthy, because it was like home cooked Indian food and all the beautiful dals and vegetables. And it was primarily vegetarian. We ate meat on the weekends as like a treat. Dessert would always be homemade, something made in ghee, like very, very like decently portioned. And I came to America where everything was supersize, right? And I was a student. And I mean, I was first, it was shocking, then it was exciting. And then it was kind of like I didn't have a choice. I was hungry and I had to eat, and I was a student. So it was like McDonald's and all the other. And it was truly exciting, I have to say, in the beginning, because I was like, what is going on? Why are these people eating so much? But it was a huge adjustment. And, when you're asking me about how what the thing that I had to kind of like get over and just be like, I'm going to embody this. I am, that book, Atomic Habits. Have you read that?
Yes.
James Clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. He talks about shifting your identity to who you want to be. Do you remember that part of the book? Or what he's saying is that if if you want something, if you truly believe that you want something, you need to believe that you have it, and you need to shift your identity in the sense that, I am a confident 20-year-old girl in the United States where I don't know shit about this country and I truly don't understand half the words that they use. And at 20, was I clear about what I'm saying now? No, not at all, because it was nerve-wracking. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because the biggest obstacle, apart from the food, my biggest challenge was speaking, or just speaking out in class, or just raising my hand, or just standing in front of an audience and saying like anything. It was something that I didn't grow up with. In India, you never get an opportunity to speak anything. Everything is crowded and they don't have time for anybody speaking. So I think it was a true challenge. And it sounds so it doesn't sound like a big deal because my children, both of them, grew up here. They're Californians. And, I can see how speaking is so inherent, right? Like you're in a group setting, or if you're in a big crowd, just saying what you feel is pretty standard. It's not considered like, a big deal. But for me, it was my accent. It was understanding what, the other person is saying, because a lot of times I would be like, my English was all very British, so I didn't understand some words. I just didn't get what they're saying.
No, and we don't put S's in words, we put Z's there. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, it was this. I'm just like, what did she say? And now what am I going to say? Like, so but the point is that even without knowing or understanding that I'm doing that James Clear technique, I was like, I am this confident woman. I would wake up every day. I had membership to this really shady gym that I used to go to. And, because that's what I could afford. And then I would like get something from Chipotle or McDonald's, slightly different, but still kind of in the same budget. And then I would be like, I'm just going to go and I'm going to make conversations with these people. And if I don't understand what they're saying, I used to do this weird thing where I used to record what people are saying. So if you said something to me and if I didn't get it, I would be like, can you please repeat that? And I would put it on my phone, like as a voice note. And I would go home and be like, at that coffee shop, the guy asked me for here or to go. And I'm like, what? He's like, for here or to go. And I'm like, what is he talking? And I was like, no coffee. Goodbye. So I would make voice notes and go home and be like, this is what this shit means. So next time when he says for here or to go, it is for here or to go, whatever.
It's go ahead.
I mean, I don't know, it sounds ridiculous because this is like 20 years later and so much has happened. But those 2 years, the first 2 years when I was in college here were hard and intimidating.
Yeah, but you were like, okay, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try to do all the things that I feel like I should be able to do, and then I'm going to do, and then I'll go back to my room and try to figure out how to break it down. And it that what
Yeah,
James Clear says, and there's so much research on it. Um, a lot of people are like, well, when I have the job, then the promotion, then I will go to the gym and take care of myself. Or when I'm, I've had different clients go, oh, well, when I'm about to have a baby, then I'll get better about my health. And it's like all
right.
the like you to have the thing you want to have, you have to be it now. Like you have to
Yeah,
be the thing and do the things now. And that's because it puts you in a mindset that makes you actually make the decisions based on the person who has the thing already versus the person who doesn't have the thing. Right.
yeah,
So that's
exactly.
really cool.
That's exactly it. That's how he explains it. Yeah, but I'm fascinated because I read that book pretty recently, right? It wasn't there 20 years ago, but I feel like that's what I was doing without even knowing it. So
Yeah.
it's
I mean, it's really, I think as human beings, we're really incredible. Sometimes, like, as far as survival goes, we'll come up with different things. But that is definitely, I feel like a great story because so many times people are like, well, I don't know how. Like, I've told this story before, but, running my own companies, I'm like, why is I don't know how to be a CEO. Like, I remember getting frustrated.
yeah,
Like, I don't know how to be a CEO. And then I was like, okay, I heard someone say on a podcast, like, well, if you act as if you are the CEO or
right.
whatever, then like what would that CEO who doesn't know how to solve this problem do? And so I had to go, okay, let me just pretend to be this person that I don't feel like I am yet. And what would I do right now? And so it makes you just make way different decisions from a place of control and confidence versus scarcity or victim or it's impossible.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I just feel that there's one thing to it though, which is so being that person or and manifesting your future. I think it's beautiful if you are open and willing to do the inner work, right? Or if you're coming from a place where you are healed, you're happy, you're ready to receive, right? If you are this bitter person holding some kind of anger, or if you are not there yet as far as your development, your self development goes, then I feel no matter how much you embody, no matter how much you manifest, and then you're like just sitting there being like, oh, why am I not, getting this? And you're not looking at what's happening inside. And this is, again, it's a pretty standard pattern, which I see in, clients, where it's like, it's been 3 months. I'm doing all the things that you're telling me to do, but I hate my tummy. And I'm like, first off, if you're talking about your body with hate and you have so much anger and so much inbuilt frustration, it's going to be really hard to see the results that you're looking for. It's not just the food, your mind and your stress levels have so much to do with your outcome. So
Yeah.
it's a combination of, I feel you can manifest, and you definitely need to believe that you are it to get there, but you do need to pay attention to what's going on inside your head and the healing and the inner work.
100%. I mean, I think we've all seen even movies, if you've never seen it in real life, of like people who are in leadership roles who like just should not
Yeah.
be there. You're like, this person
Yeah.
should not be there. And they're also not even appreciating the things that are around them. When it comes to, so, I think people say inner work, and I'm wondering, like, I know for me, for a long time, I was like, okay, I'm going to do the inner work. Like, what does that even mean? So
Me.
I would read books because that's what I could afford at the time. And I was like, I hope this is the inner work. And then podcast came out and I was like, thank goodness for this free,
Yeah.
free way of getting some work for me. Like it was definitely working with a somatic therapist actually was
Yeah.
really good for me. For you, like for clients that you've worked with, obviously nutrition is I don't think people realize the way that nutrition plays mind games on us.
Yeah.
And so what would you say is like, is it nutrition? Is it therapy? Like what are some of your go-to ways for people to figure out that inner work they need to do?
First off, yes to therapy. I think all kinds of therapy I appreciate all of it. And I think it's very interesting. It's still, people have a lot of resistance to see a therapist or to, just open up and talk to someone else about what's going on. Yes to therapy, but more than that, yeah, nutrition, what you're eating is going to be foundational. Movement and how active you are, and what you're doing there, as well as your stress levels, your sleep, all that I think ties in. It is pretty holistic. I don't think it's one or the other. And I
Yeah.
have a lot of really fit clients who are like, I mean, as fit as they can be, who are miserable, who are so unhappy, who are they're like constantly looking for ways to, get to the next level. And quite frankly, they don't even know what the next level is. So I think it's everyone's very different. And for one person, maybe it's like, your nutrition is seriously lacking and we need to make some switches so that you start like having a better relationship with food. But for someone else, it might just be something as simple as, like doing yoga or getting out in nature. Someone who's like stuck in front of their computer all day and doesn't even like realize it. Like, for example, like the best example I can give is like being in a casino, right? Like inside a casino, like how clever is that? It's like the lights are always the same, it's always bright, it's always entertaining, there's enough blue light to kick the melatonin out, so you're always in that cortisol rush. They want that because they want you to play. But that's how we are pretty much living our life, like we're in a
Hmm.
casino, right? Because we are
Yeah.
indoors, we are in front of the computer, then we are watching something, and then we expect to have a good night's sleep. So I feel like it's just, it all ties in, and it's not one thing. I call it the tripod actually of optimal health, which is what
Okay.
you're eating, how what your movement, your life activity, your lifestyle, and then your mental health, your mindset, right? They all tie in, and then your health is sort of like sitting on that tripod. So if one of
Mm.
those legs is like wobbly, then the whole thing is gonna collapse.
It is an incredible visual. And you're right. Cause you mentioned like it's holistic. Cause some people could be listening going, well, Uma and Lesley, I do yoga, I do Pilates, I eat like this, and then still not. It's like, well, if your mindset isn't,
Yes.
like your movement might be there and your nutrition might be there, but if your money mindset is lacking, or your the way you see other people trying to help you, like all those things, you have to work on all the parts of the tripod. I That's really a genius way of describing it. um I find like with a lot of people, they start to go, well, this is really nice, but it's either very expensive to think about
Hmm.
that, or it's very time consuming, which is expensive. So for someone who is maybe lacking in time, do you have any like go-to tips for working on that tripod with just like, like quick, easy, not that anything's easy, but just ways to kind of get started? Because I think once you get started, it's like a snowball and you start to find more
It
time
is.
because you start to crave doing more.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. And I think starting small and, getting those successes and putting those checks on that small list for your health, it's super motivating. And you're right, it's like a ripple effect, and you feel like doing more. For starters, things that cost absolutely no money. The first thing I would say is circadian fasting. All of us can do it.
Mm.
It does not cost any money. I think that's the reason why it's so not popular, because the pharma companies or nobody's making any money out of people fasting. So that would be one. Sunlight, getting some fresh sunlight, like on your face, in your retina, like in the early hours of the day, just to sync that circadian clock. Also, obviously, for vitamin D, for energy. That would be a good thing. Starting to cook at home, or
Mm.
even if you are not a cook, just getting involved in the process of cooking, maybe sitting and creating a menu together, or just maybe have a couple of nights in the week where it becomes a thing, where you are like experimenting with food with a glass of wine or something. I feel like the more involved you are in the process of picking your food, prepping it, eating it, and I know everyone can't do it, and it is time consuming, but it doesn't have to be every day. It's just, it gets you closer. I think it's a part of mindful eating. Like, it's not just, oh, sit down in a comfortable place and make sure you are smelling your food and looking at all the colors and like eating it. Yes, that's beautiful, but you should also know where the food came from, right? And I think doing it even once a week is like a beautiful exercise.
Yeah.
Sleep doesn't cost anything most of the time, unless you're at a point where you need a lot of sleep aid. But most of the time, just trying to get to sleep on time, staying away from blue light, staying away from media, and staying away from just um, toxic media more than anything else, as well as just a lot of like chats and conversations which can kind of hurt you in any way,
Mm-hmm.
because all of us have those, right? Where talking to mom makes me feel this way, or talking to a certain cousin really brings up this side in me. So maybe not doing that like right before going to bed. um
I mean, that's genius because I think people are like, oh, I'm going to be screen free. But then they like
yeah,
call their sister
call.
who makes them feel like not super great about themselves, or they get
Yeah,
off the phone with their mom. And it's like just kind of before bed, not doing any of those things that don't make you feel good.
yeah, any of those things, but at least an hour. And it doesn't have to be too long. You can do a lot of things other than talking to toxic people and watching TV, right? So I mean, it could be listening to something, it could be a podcast, or music,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe actually talking to people who you live with. Or
Maybe talking to the people you live with.
right, which is like everyone's just on their own media. So which is very, I mean, I have to intentionally make my kids do that, because they're at that age where media is everything. So talking to people at home is actually a part of a bedtime routine. So it's like they get time on the television. So it's watching and talking, that's what we call it. So watching time is where they can be on their iPad or on TV, and then it's talking time. So then they can talk to each other, or they can talk to us. um,
That I think that's so cool because I think there's probably a lot of moms listening there, and it's like, how do you get them off? But they get to be on their screens. It sounds like until it's the bedtime routines, and then it's like you get to talk to us, or you can talk to each other, or you anything but
yeah,
that.
yeah, or they have other options. They have Legos to play with. It's just not screen time is over at that point. And it's so inherent, it's now they know it. So they would be talking and playing something really cute. It could be, or could be drawing and talking.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, as you said in the beginning, that these are the kind of things that I think they're important to me, and I want them to learn them from the beginning, as
Yeah.
against later.
But what great tips, because not one of those things costs any money. They just cost like making the decision and being intentional about it. And it's I find that when you make those steps, um, it really is that I said it before, it's like a snowball, like it starts to gain more speed, and it allows more space. You'll start to see more opportunities for um, either free ways to take care of the three things on the tripod, or you might, because you have more time, you start to explore other things. I mean, I remember thinking when I started doing morning pages, I'm like, I already have to wake up so early, like I can't even do this. And I'm like, look, this is a free thing that your very expensive therapist has suggested you do. Just give it a try. And now it's like, it doesn't take that much time. It does start the day off really, really well. And it helps you with everything else that I do all day. So thank you for sharing those just like off the top, because I think that was really helpful. Okay, Uma. So everyone is in love with you now, and and they
Oh,
want to
he's
follow
sweet.
you and work with you. How can they do that?
A couple of different ways. I have a website. It's called On with a Twist, and you can put a link for that.
Mm-hmm.
And
We'll have
then
in the show notes.
I'm on Instagram. That's where I mainly hang on social media, so you can definitely catch me there. Right now, I'm actually doing a free challenge starting March. Sorry, not March. We're in May, right? May 17th. It's for 5 days. So it's a free mind and body challenge. And I'm sharing one hit workout, one mindset exercise, which you can do in less than 20 minutes every day for 5 days. And then I have a free food list with that, which you can use to just complement what you're doing. So if you're interested, I will also give you a link to that, and you can put it in the show notes. I'd love to have you guys there.
Oh my God, this sounds so fun. Do you run challenges often so that anytime people are listening to this, down the road, they can
Mm,
jump on? Is there like a
so
list?
Yes, so this one is a free challenge. I also do my 10-week challenge. It's called the 10-week challenge, which is every 3 months. I do private coaching. I do group coaching. So there's different opportunities to work with me, and it's all on my website.
Oh, amazing. We'll have all of that in the show notes and how you can get in touch with her. And if you are like, I don't even know which one of these things I need, you'll just DM her on Instagram and she will help you.
Yes.
Okay. So I ask everyone this because I think it's so important that anyone listening to this who resonated with your story, who heard, how you got here to this country and like how you started your business. And they're like, this woman really resonates with me. I really want them to have tips from you. So what are, some tips you can give to our listeners about how they could be it till they see it? It could be something bold or executable, or how they can find out what their intrinsic motivation is, or targeted.
All right. So as I said before, the most important thing is to make sure that you are starting from a really healed and grounded place, right? You want a really good foundation to build on. That's important. And you will know it. You'll know when you feel it. And if you're not, and if you need some work that you need to do, then as we talk about, therapy is great, but also things like tapping or breath work, or just more time in nature where you can let go, heal, and create the space to invite all those things that you want to be. That's one thing. And then once you do that, it is truly important to believe that you have it. And I feel like even affirming to it, saying it out loud, I am whatever it is that it is. Like, for example, for me, right now, I am in the process of trying to be a little more mindful of how I spend my money. I just felt like during COVID, I was just going a little out of control, and I caught myself and I was like, I need to train my mind to be more mindful about money. So one of my affirmations is that I am the kind of person who saves. I'm the kind of person who saves, and it is so effective. So every single time I want to spend more than $100, I just sit there and I'm like, I'm the kind of person who saves. And a lot of times I change my mind. And so it's affirmations really help in getting to where you want to be. And yeah, I mean, I feel like at the end of the day, if you don't believe you can do it, no matter what anybody else tells you, it's not happening. So you better believe, and you better 100% trust the fact that you are and you can do it.
Oh, I love all of those so much, but the affirmation thing is something I've recently started doing because we're making a lot of changes, and I was having this like identity crisis about like being that person. And I was like, we just have to start telling ourselves that every single day, because you got to get that subconscious to believe it. So thank you for that. I love all of these tips so much. And I'm just so grateful for you. I'm grateful that we met. I love that the universe just made sure we're in the same room at the same time. It's so fun to see what you're doing. And I'm so grateful that you were able to share so generously with those of us, those who are listening, because I think that a lot of people are working so hard on who they want to be. And oftentimes they don't realize it's actually not buying something, or it's not the next educational thing you need. It's really taking care of that health tripod. And so grateful for you. Everyone, please do us a favor, screenshot this, share it on your socials, and tag us both so we can see your takeaways. Make sure you follow Uma, and I will, until next time, be it till you see it. That's all I got for this episode of the Be It Till You See It podcast. One thing that would help both myself and future listeners is for you to rate the show and leave a review. And follow or subscribe for free wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, make sure to introduce yourself over at the Be It Pod on Instagram. I would love to know more about you. Share this episode with whoever you think needs to hear it. Help us and others be it till you see it. Have an awesome day.
Be It Till You See It is a production of As the Crows Fly Media.
It's written, produced, filmed, and recorded by your host, Lesley Logan, and me, Brad Kroll.
Kevin and Belle at Disenyo handle all of our audio editing and some social media content.
Our theme music is by Ali at Apex Production Music, and our branding by designer and artist Gianfranco Cioffi.
Special thanks to our designer, Jaira Mandal, for creating all of our visuals, which you can't see because this is a podcast, and our digital producer, Jay Pedroso, for editing all the video each week so you can.
And the Meredith Kroll for keeping us all on point and on time.